Hi, everyone, and welcome to my talk. So, this one's not working. There we go. Okay, the Northern Lights. In a nutshell, they occur when charged particles from the sun hit the Earth's atmosphere, creating colorful lights that swirl and dance in the sky. Beautiful, right? But what does this have to do with our talk today? Well, as a person who's been chasing the Northern Lights my entire life, and as an engineer who's been working on bugs for almost a decade now, I found out that they both require meticulous chasing. So, with bugs, no matter how well you know the system and the code base, no matter how well and thorough you do or don't test your code, no matter how much time and effort you put into debugging, sometimes there are bugs that you just can't seem to recreate. So what do? You close them, leaving the system buggy and the users frustrated. And that's where I come in. Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Moadi. I joined Wix 4 years ago as a support QA engineer. Part of my responsibilities were to create bugs and prioritize them and to push for as many bugs to be solved as possible based on users' pain score. And afterwards, I joined the document management team as a software engineer. And after that, I transitioned into the components company as a team lead. Thank you. And one last fact about me, yes, you guessed it right, I'm a Northern Lights enthusiast. Now, from all of my experience so far, working with both users and bugs from two different worlds, there's one thing that I think all developers should definitely do, and that's to keep your users close and your bugs closer. So in this talk, I'm going to share my perception of users and bugs. I will also talk about some of the ways that help me keep users and bugs close to me as a developer. And these ways also help me improve the system, improve product quality, and they also boosted and enriched my journey at Wix greatly. All right, so let's talk about users. Users can tell you a lot about your bugs. So we all know that where there is complex code, there are bugs, right? And so the more users will use your code, the more likely they're going to find bugs. Now, the best thing that you can hope for is that they're going to report them. Because in doing so, they're going to be giving you two things. First, they're going to be, we have bugs and we have the users, they're going to be practically handing you for free a manual on how to improve your code's quality. Now, another thing the second thing that they're going to be giving you is loyalty. Because we all know that competition is one migrate into our platform, click away. The easiest thing for users to do today is to move their business elsewhere if they're unhappy. And we all know that the options are countless, a lot of competitors. So this is why when users take the time to report bugs, we should not take that for granted. Like, we should aspire to fix as many bugs as possible, because the more we do over time, when we do it constantly, basically what we're doing is the interaction between us, the developers, and the users is de facto going to yield higher code quality, and then in return, we're going to get long-term loyalty. So now bugs. Let's talk about bugs. Bugs can tell you a lot about your system. From my experience so far, I think that our value as developers is measured by how much knowledge we have, how much knowledge in the system we have. And the more knowledge we have, the bigger our impact is going to be. And indeed, when I joined the document management group as an engineer, as a software engineer, I noticed that the developers that made the biggest and the most impact were the ones that were long enough, like around, they have been long enough around to be able to, give answers to everything in the system. So they knew the system so well, and so they were able to make so much impact. But for me, long enough was too long. I was eager and hungry to make impact and know the system inside out yesterday. And I did manage to find a way. And it was through what I transitioned from into development, bugs. You so did not see that coming, right? And so basically, what I did is, as developers, we try to contribute to the system, clean of bugs code as much as we can, right? But as I mentioned before, when there is code, and at Wix there's a lot of it, there are bugs. It's just inevitable. And as bugs require debug and research, I think that the best ones are the ones that you didn't create and the ones that you're unable to recreate. Because these two types of bugs will take you to places in the code that you're unfamiliar with and that most likely you would not have visited otherwise. And so think about it. Bug after bug, you're basically wandering around the system, getting to know more files, more tests, more logic, and more architecture. And along the way, you're improving the system. So the benefit, the contribution, it goes both ways between us, the developers, and the bugs. And now, basically what you want to do is, as I mentioned, we are all aspiring to make impact. So the more you debug and research and get to know the system, obviously, the more knowledge and experience you're going to have. And so it will enable you so fast to be able to make impact regardless of how long you've been around. And so that's all great because it should not stop there. It should not stop by just making an impact by fixing a bug, because I must accentuate that impact is not just about fixing the bug. It's also about sharing knowledge. If you gain knowledge along the way fixing bugs, getting to know more and more parts in the system, share the knowledge. Share it actively, share it on a daily basis, because the more you share knowledge, the more recognized you're going to become among other developers, including those making the big decisions. So on and on like this, eventually you're going to become the leading candidate for critical tasks, for big projects, and even for leading positions. And I swear I know someone who did that. All right, so moving on, let's talk about how to keep bugs close to us. Be in the bugs loop. You don't have to be assigned a bug to contribute to its resolution. Okay, like let this sink for a bit. So how can we do that? Many ways I've found to achieve being always in the loop. For example, Slack and ticketing integration, ticketing system integration. So I found it really helpful to have a Slack channel into which I get notifications about every Jira ticket or every bug that was created. Now, it's in all of the projects because I want to be updated. I want to know the minute that I created a bug and it was reported, I want to know about it. Because, for example, we have over here a CC bug, that's customer care bug, that was created, and it has the name of my experiment there. This is like the migrate old hoverbox. I was migrating some old code to new one, and I was rolling out the experiment. Now, as soon as I saw this, I was like, if I don't fix this right now, it's going to stall the progression of my rollout. And so few minutes after I saw this, debugged, because, I mean, if you're working on something for so long, you know the code, so you know exactly where to debug. A few minutes later, I already had a fixed PR, and I did not wait for it to reach operations, to get prioritized, and God knows which sprint it's going to end up in. And so this will help you also be aware and have knowledge on what's going on in your project. So, for example, sometimes I also saw bugs that were created that for something that someone else worked on, and I knew that they worked on because, we have dailies, we have milestone meetings and stuff, and so I saw that it was created. I would probably ping that person and be like, hey, be aware. And obviously, each one of us, we want to make sure that we're releasing features or our tasks are as perfect as possible. So obviously, if you get notified about a bug that you created, you want to fix it as soon as possible. And so I think this is super helpful. Another way is Slack channels. Be active on Slack, okay? Like, I can't tell you how much important it is to have presence on Slack, because it's like a mindset that I don't need to be asked for help to give my help, right? If I know something about a task, about a bug, I'm just going to share it. And this is another way in which basically you're contributing to the system, because proactively, and in returns, it also contributes to your growth, because with time, you're just going to become that person who everyone's going to go to ask questions because you provided them with answers before. And so they're just going to learn to trust you more. And so I'm just going to give here an example. So we have a Wix employee that reported a bug in a Slack channel I'm in. And you see over there, it's just an API data update, and they got an error. Now, it has nothing to do with me. It's not my task. It's not my bug. I did not create this. But because I was aware of the type of error that was thrown and what could possibly have caused it, it's you can see that at 12:43, the bug was reported. 3 minutes later, I just jumped in. I was like, what did you do? What are the steps to recreate? 1 minute later, that person gave me precise steps to recreate. And then a few minutes after, I found out the product owner, and I tagged them. I was like, I gave a little bit extra help, and I was like, guys, you're doing this and you're doing that. And the product manager tagged the developer. The developer was like, almost less than 2 days later, the issue was resolved. And now, the mindset at Wix is that we're trying our best to fix bugs before they reach users to begin with. And so this bug, I don't know if it got to users. I don't know what users experienced, but the way I see it, if the employee experienced it, then most likely the user already also experienced it or about to experience it in the next GA. And so we want to prevent that. We don't want users to report bugs. And so this is why being active on Slack channels is really great. And it helps everyone, including you. So know thy bugs, know thy future features. So nothing kills the joy of a new feature than a relevant old bug that could have been solved prior to the release, right? And so, for example, over here, you can see that we wanted to migrate the old animation system to the new one, and by some miracle, we noticed that there was this bug, and as you can see, it had 90 complaints, and we had to fix it, because if we did not went about fixing this bug, then this bad data would have gotten migrated as well, and then when it would be migrated, it would be both hard to migrate, like hard to work with that data, and the users would continue to experience the bug. And so even like fixing the bad data in the new format would have been hell. And so basically, like when working on a new feature, make sure to go over your bugs backlog. Just like run over the tickets, see like if maybe there's a Jira ticket that has something to do with your feature. And if you're, spread the word. If you're like working with other companies, tell them, hey, how about if you do the same? Like, because we want to release a good feature together, then you should probably look at your backlog and make sure that you don't have any bugs that will probably end up, hurting the release of the new feature, because we want users to have like the best user experience. Debugging the bugs that cannot be recreated. So these bugs you will learn the most from, because why can't a bug be recreated? There are two possible answers to that. It was already fixed, and then perfect. Find the fix commit, add it to the ticket, right? We want everything to be documented. Us developers, we tend not to communicate, we can communicate more. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's say that you have no idea why it's not recreating. Begin the research journey. Now, research and debugging, in my opinion, there's quite the difference between them. They're not exactly the same. Because if you're unable to recreate, you're unable to debug, but it does not mean that you're unable to research. So a few methods I use to research a bug that I can't recreate. I would start by asking myself, can I translate the words I'm reading, can I translate them into a technical lingo? Do I know to say like, okay, if the user is unable to update text, which API is that? When you start doing that, reading Jira tickets and just like trying to translate them into APIs, it will like help you greatly progress, especially when you're unable to recreate. Try to see what's in common between all the affected users. Sometimes looking for patterns, looking for ways like to make segmentations of like the users or like everything that's related to the bug, it will help you greatly, because sometimes it would be either are they experiencing the issue on like the same component? Do they belong to the same country? Or maybe they're all experiencing on the same browser. This is like also a way that you can start thinking, where do I find patterns? Where do I find trends? And my absolute favorite, add BI logs, add BI events. Of all of the tools I've used and developed myself, BI events are by far one of the best, because you just have to, especially for uncaught exceptions, you just have to find the right place to add the events and just wait. And that's perfectly okay to say, I didn't solve the bug, but I did add BI events and I'm waiting. And I promise you, in no time, you're going to get events, because we have a lot of users. And when you get events, obviously, you want to be smart about what you want to send. And when you get events, from there, the journey is way easier. And sometimes we were able to actually fix bugs without being able to recreate, because we just used BI events that led us to, what could have been the flow. And so I highly recommend that you do that. The holy grail question. When did the bug occur for the first time ever? Sounds simple, right? But I swear, sometimes developers, they rush, they jump into just debugging. And be lazy. Be lazy. First, ask yourself, okay, I'm not going to debug. Did it ever work properly, like the code, the problem? Was it ever okay? If not, then just try to see why. Because more often than not, you might be able to find, regressions. You might be able to find faulty commits, and then from there, it's super easy. And so if the bug throws an error in the console or BI, ask yourself, when was it the first time ever thrown? And if it's unexpected behavior, there's no error, then just try to look for a regression. Try to, like segmentation of the code, when did it work last time? Good. That's like going to make your life so much easier. And unfortunately, I see that I'm running out of time. But over here, I have an example where we had a bug. I was too lazy to debug. We were also unable to recreate. And so I just went about looking for, the first time that the error ever occurred, because it was super, unique. It had the word geomap, which is like Google Maps. And indeed, I went about looking for when was the first complaint, when was the first error logged, and then I went back in the commits, and I literally found a commit that said, quick edit Google Maps. And so, it was so much fun then try to debug. Okay, unfortunately, I'm running out of time altogether, but keep your users close. Just try to read their tickets. Try to follow them on social media to see their pain, because sometimes they will also share love words to the work and the hard work that we're doing. So, basta. But in any case, just an FYI, in case you were wondering if I ever saw the Northern Lights, or what did I catch better, the Northern Lights or bugs? Who can tell me? Wow, that's so true. Kol hakavod. Okay, it is. It was bugs, because the Northern Lights, it's really hard to see with the naked eye. And so all of these pictures were indeed taken from my phone in Norway, but I just saw a gray, cloud, and that's it. Thank you, everyone.